Welcome everyone to Scholars Choice's monthly educational webinar, Back to Basics, 5 Physical Tips to Keep Kids Fit and Healthy. My name's Reagan, and I'll be your host for this evening's call. So before we begin, let's just go over some tips for making sure everything runs smoothly for you, our audience members. For the sake of keeping background noise low, everyone is on mute, as you'll notice on your dashboard. We do encourage questions throughout though. So to ask a question, you just go to the GoToWebinar dashboard on your screen, look for the questions chat box, and you can enter it in right there. So for everybody that wants to test it out, if anyone can shoot me a line right now, just say a quick hello. We'll make sure it's all working out. Perfect, getting some coming in here. Hi, Brianne. Hi, Lori. Awesome. Oh, everybody's coming in. Great. Okay, so throughout, as you ask questions, as the host, I'm going to take them into consideration here and pass them on to Tara and Dr. Brian Gushati at the end during our question and answer period. If one of your questions does not get asked, though, because of timing reasons, we will still pass that on to our experts, and we will cover that at a later date in a recapping blog. So no matter what, all of your questions will be answered. Okay, so again, thank you all to those joining that are just logging on right now. I'll give you another minute just to get in settled here. All right, more people hopping on just at the moment. I'm just going to take a minute to introduce everyone to our guest experts now. Tonight we have the honor of having Tara Madden join us, and unfortunately, Dr. Kulak, who was originally joining us, is unable to, but we have the wonderful Dr. Brian Gushati of Alberta College of Chiropractors stepping in to discuss his area of expertise. I'll give you a little bit of a background on Tara Madden. She is based in Edmonton, Alberta, where she is not only a proud wife and dog parent, but as a true Canadian, a hockey fan as well, and a writing and grammar buff. She has a long history with the Alberta College of Chiropractors, acting as their PR coordinator for the past 7 years. Tara, I will now actually pass this off to you and allow you to introduce your colleague, Dr. Gushati, and your presentation.
Thank you very much, and good evening. We're very pleased to be here with you this evening. Thank you so much for having us. My name is Tara Madden. I am the Public Relations Coordinator with the Alberta College and Association of Chiropractors, affectionately known as the ACAC. I'm going to give you a bit of background on what the ACAC is and what we're here to share with you this evening. The ACAC is the regulatory and licensing body for Alberta's almost 1,000 licensed doctors of chiropractic, also known as chiropractors. In addition to regulating the chiropractic profession under Alberta's Health Professions Act, we're passionate about sharing health and wellness information with Albertans and beyond our provincial borders to help everyone to feel better, move better, and live better. Joining me tonight, I'm delighted to introduce Dr. Brian Gushati, an Edmonton area chiropractor. After pursuing his undergraduate science education at the University of Calgary, Dr. Gushati received his Doctor of Chiropractic degree from Canadian Memorial Chiropractic College in Toronto in 1977. Dr. Gushati owned a successful chiropractic practice in Drumheller, Alberta for over 25 years, working in collaboration with other healthcare providers in the region. He continues to practice in the Edmonton area, as well as serving as registrar for the ACAC. We're really excited to be able to share some information with you this evening about students and back health, especially in this ever-changing technological world. Dr. Gushati is also very happy to answer any questions you may have and provide his professional expertise. So if you have any questions as we go along, please do ask away. I'm going to start with an outline of our presentation so you can get a sense of what to expect this evening. We're going to start with a description of the 21st century student. Student life is quite different today than it was even when we went to school, and that has an impact on the student. So we're going to talk about some of the activities that students and children are exposed to, both in the classroom and at home, that can impact their physical health. This evening, we'll provide you with some practical tips and takeaways that you can incorporate into your homes and classrooms. So we're going to talk about student ergonomics, how the physical setup of the learning environment can help to prevent strains and injury. We're also going to talk about backpack safety, how to select a suitable backpack for children, how to pack it, and how to lift it and wear it to reduce the risk of pain and strain. This discussion wouldn't be complete if we didn't talk about the devices that kids are regularly using that can create bad physical habits and can negatively affect their health. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And we're going to talk about the importance of physical activity in maintaining back health. This includes sports, recreational activities, and regular stretching exercises. Finally, as promised, we'll open the discussion up for questions to Dr. Gushati. And we really feel that this is a really important part of this evening, so feel free, please, to share your questions. He's here to share his expertise. So let's get started. The 21st century student. Life for today's students is quite different than it was even 10 years ago. Most of us walked to school carrying a couple of books, and when we arrived at school, the tools we needed to learn were limited to books, chalk, and a chalkboard. Today, a child's school experience is radically different. Many are driven to school, carry heavy backpacks, and use computers and smartboards in the classroom. Student ergonomics in the learning environment. Good ergonomics start with the right workstation. Have your child study at a desk or a table with a good chair. Huddling or crouching on the floor or bed can put a strain on the spine. Even reading in bed for extended periods of time with the head propped up on a pillow can and does place strain on the neck. We do see a lot of small children sitting at adult-sized desks or in adult-sized chairs. You want to make sure that the furniture is appropriate to the size of the user. There is a lot of really good child-sized furniture available now, and it's well worth investing in. Adjustable chairs are ideal. You want to position the chair at a height that allows the child's feet to be flat on the floor and the knees bent at a 90-degree angle. If the chair is not adjustable, you can always use a footrest, such as a box or a stool. And even children should use a chair with a good backrest, as this reduces pressure on the lower back. A portable lumbar support or even a pillow can be used on chairs with poor back support. Chairs with armrests also help by supporting the weight of the arms. Positioning of the computer is also really important for proper ergonomics. You want to ensure that the computer monitor is at the right height. Children shouldn't have to lean towards or away from the screen to see it clearly. Place the keyboard a comfortable distance between the screen and the eyes and position the monitor at eye level, and you can use a stand or a book to do this. If the child is using a laptop, place the laptop on a desk or a table, and that way it's closer to eye level. Arms should be held in a neutral position, and that means that the elbows are relaxed and they're loose at the child's side. You want to teach your children and your students to keep the mouse close so that they can keep their arms and wrists straight, and you also want to encourage them not to hold the mouse too tightly. Overuse is one of the most common causes for strain and injury. Teach your children to listen to their bodies. You want to have them change position if they feel tension or stress in a certain area, like in the neck, in the back, or in the shoulders. Also encourage them not to sit in one position for long periods. Have them stand up or walk around every 20 to 30 minutes. And you can be a part of teaching them good ergonomics. Remember to set a good example. Practice good ergonomics yourself. Take breaks regularly so your children learn from your example. Backpacks. Pack it light and wear it right. More than 50% of young people experience at least one episode of low back pain by their teen years. That statistic is surprising to a lot of people. Kids and backpacks just seem to go together. Whether we're sending them off to school, to a sporting event, or for a sleepover with a friend, the chances are that they are taking a backpack with them. Carrying a heavy load unevenly or improperly can result in poor posture and even distort the spinal column, causing muscle strain, headaches, neck and arm pain, and even nerve damage. I'm going to just take a moment and show you our short Pack It Light, Wear It Right video.
Backpacks are cool for school, but carrying a heavy load can result in poor posture and even distort the spinal column. Pick a lightweight backpack proportionate to your body with wide adjustable padded shoulder straps. Pack only what's needed for the day and distribute the weight evenly, no more than 10 to 15% of your child's body weight. Put on your pack at table height with assistance and secure the shoulder straps and waist belt for added stability. Remember, pack it light, wear it right. Brought to you by your local chiropractor.
So let's talk about some of these tips in a bit more detail. You want to pick the backpack right. You want to choose a bag made of lightweight material, such as a vinyl or a canvas. Pick a bag that has 2 wide, adjustable, and padded shoulder straps, along with a hip or a waist strap, a padded back, and plenty of pockets. Ensure the bag is proportionate to body size and no larger than needed. The top of the pack should not extend higher than the top of the shoulder, and the bottom should not fall below the top of the hip bone. It's a good idea to explore other options too, like bags with wheels and a pull handle for easy rolling. Pack it light. The total weight of the pack should not exceed 10 to 15% of the wearer's body weight. We're going to talk about this a little bit more in just a minute. Make sure the backpack contains only what is needed for the day or for the activity. Spread the weight throughout the pack and make sure you utilize all those pockets. Finally, pack the heaviest items closest to the body. And wear it right. Both shoulder straps should always be used and adjusted so the pack fits snugly against the body. You should be able to slide a hand between the backpack and the wearer's back. The pack should sit 2 inches above the waist. Never ever allow your child or students to sling backpacks over only one shoulder. Make sure they use the waist strap. It reduces the strain on the back and transfers some of the load to the hips. And some backpacks also have a strap that goes across the chest. This further serves to reduce the load. So going back to the issue of the weight of the pack, how much should your child's pack weigh? This is actually fairly easy to calculate. First, you weigh your child. Second, you need to figure out the child's maximum load. This is 10% of the body weight for grades kindergarten to 8 and 15% of total body weight for grades 9 to 12. So for example, if your child is in grade 5 and weighs 90 pounds, you multiply that by 10% and the pack should weigh no more than 9 pounds. Once you've figured out the maximum load, you need to weigh the contents. Easiest way to do that is simply to weigh the loaded pack on your bathroom scale. A more accurate way to weigh it, however, is to weigh each item on a kitchen scale, including the empty pack, record each item's weight, and add them up for the total loaded pack weight. We often forget how heavy each individual item can be, and it does add up quickly. And then compare the child's maximum load to the actual weight of the loaded pack, and you may be surprised. I'm going to go briefly over these tips one more time because this is really, really important. These are the do's and don'ts for carrying a backpack. Don't sling it on one side. This can cause the spine to lean, putting stress on the joints and muscles in the mid and lower back. Do wear both straps and adjust them so the pack fits snugly against the back. And do use the waist strap to transfer some of the load to the hips and reduce the strain on the back. Don't carry the backpack too low, or it can cause the wearer to lean forward, putting the weight on the upper back and shoulders. Is technology becoming a pain in your child's neck? For every inch of forward head posture, it can increase the weight of the head on the spine by an additional 10 pounds. As we said at the beginning, this presentation wouldn't be complete if we didn't talk about the devices kids are regularly using that can create bad physical habits and can negatively affect their health. Here's an interesting stat for you. Did you know that Canadians send an average of 270 million texts per day. Along with the convenience that advancing technology provides, comes the need to minimize the risk of injury. And this is especially true of young people whose bodies are still developing. Now, you've probably heard the phrase text neck and BlackBerry thumb. With the ever-increasing daily use of mobile devices, such as smartphones, tablets, and handheld games, our chiropractors are seeing an increase in corresponding repetitive strain injuries like text neck and BlackBerry thumb. For reference, repetitive strain injuries are injuries of the musculoskeletal and nervous systems. Repetitive strain injuries are caused by repetitive tasks, by forceful exertions, by vibrations, mechanical compression, pressing against hard surfaces, or by sustained or awkward positions. So what exactly is text neck? Text neck presents as rounded shoulders and the head hanging forward and down, and you can see that represented in the picture before you. It's caused by poor posture from hunching over a mobile device for long periods of time. This prolonged poor posture is often associated with chronic headaches and shoulder and neck pain, and it can have long-term impact. Text neck and neck strain can cause postural abnormalities, and it can change growth patterns, especially in the upper spine. Not surprisingly, the largest risk group is children and teenagers who are heavy users of smartphones and handheld gaming devices, things like iPods, iPhones, iPads, and PS3s. Now, we know technology isn't going anywhere, so how do we help our children minimize the risks? Well, since text neck is a postural abnormality, the key is to stress the importance of strong posture and how to achieve it. Tips to avoid text neck. There are several things that you as teachers and parents can incorporate into your day-to-day activities and those of your children and students that will help to alleviate some of these symptoms and help to strengthen posture. First, always sit up straight and keep your chest out and your shoulders back. Bring your arms up to eye level so that you don't have to look down to see the screen. If you must look down, tuck your chin into your neck instead of hanging your head forward. If you use your mobile device for extensive typing, consider investing in an external keyboard. And resting your forearms on a pillow while typing can help to minimize neck tension. Finally, avoid using mobile devices in bright sunlight. This can often lead to straining to see the screen, which can cause you to jut your chin forward, straining the muscles that support the head. Balance is critical. Strive for a balanced lifestyle. This may seem obvious, but it's always worth saying. The best way to minimize the risk of repetitive strain injuries related to mobile devices is to simply limit the use of these devices. In a recent Canadian study, not surprisingly, researchers surveyed students and found that those who used their devices for 3 hours or more a day were twice as likely to experience pain in their shoulders, neck, and other issues compared to those who used their devices for less time. Balance is critical. Encourage your child or students to take regular breaks, and encourage them to get regular physical activity to offset the effects of leaning over a smartphone or a tablet. Another really critical element is to introduce your child or students to a regular stretching program. They can perform things like hand stretches, squeezing a stress ball. This can help your fingers. Encourage them to pull shoulder blades back and down to help alleviate neck and shoulder strain. Stretch the chest by standing up straight with arms down at the side, and turn the forearms until the thumbs are pointing at the wall behind you. And exercises like yoga and Pilates focus heavily on posture and can help improve poor posture. Now, this conversation about balance and stretching leads us into our section of our presentation about physical activity and regular stretching to help maximize back health. As we've talked about, a balanced lifestyle is critical to maintaining and maximizing physical health, particularly back health. Children are spending a lot of time sitting. They're in desks, they're in front of the TV, and they're on computers. You want to encourage your child or your students to be physically active. Physical activity strengthens the bones and muscles and improves and protects the child's physical well-being. A balanced diet rich in calcium and vitamin D will also help build your child's skeletal system. Now, a good rule of thumb to remember when your children are using gaming devices or on the computer is that for every hour of sitting, have them get up and move for 5 or 10 minutes. This can be very simple. Have them play a quick game that gets them up, or do some stretches. Also, it's really good to encourage involvement in sports and in after-school activities. The thing to remember is that good physical habits as a child set the stage for stronger back health, and it becomes much more likely that they will remain active in later years. Reach for better posture. Now, I know that posture isn't the most exciting subject. Generally, I know for me, it inspires memories of my mother nagging me to stand up straight and to stop slouching. But at the end of the day, posture is important. It's very, very important. So what is posture? When you think of posture, do you think about how tall you stand? About pulling your shoulders back or pulling in your belly button? That is traditionally what most people think of when they think of posture. But the reality is that posture is so much more. Posture is how we align our entire body to keep upright against the constant force of gravity. Now, having good, strong posture is important because it keeps our bones and joints in alignment so our muscles can work properly. It allows our bodies to use less energy for daily tasks. It helps decrease wear on joints that can result in arthritis. It helps to prevent backache and muscle pain. It increases our spine's flexibility and our stress tolerance. And frankly, it makes us look better. Now, it's important to take a minute too and note that posture isn't just important for physical health. It impacts self-esteem as well, especially when we're talking to children or looking at children in their teen years. That's a time when kids are much more likely to feel uncomfortable in their own bodies and to feel concerned about fitting in. And that lack of confidence and self-esteem can be reflected in poor posture. It can also be remedied, at least in part, by practicing stronger posture, and that can have a positive impact on the child's self-esteem. So how do you know if you have strong posture? Posture is important for all of us. So I'm actually going to invite you to join in the audience participation part of this presentation. This is good for all of us to do. I'm going to ask each of you to stand and perform a simple posture assessment. And no one can see you. So while standing, if you stand up, lift your left foot and balance on your right foot. You should be able to balance for 30 seconds before you need to put your foot down. Now, I'm not going to make you do this for 30 seconds right now, but even in this short time, do you find that you have to shift to keep your balance? Now I'm going to ask you to try this test again, this time lifting your right foot and balancing on your left. Have you found that it's easier to balance on one side than it is to balance on the other? If you find it challenging to balance on one foot, or you had to keep shifting around to stay upright, this is a sign that you could benefit from stronger posture.
Tara, I don't know about our audience, but I'll be the first to admit that I'm a little worried about my posture now.
And I'm the first to admit that I've been gradually sitting up more upright in my chair as I've given this presentation. So I'm reading my own information and lecturing myself internally. It's something we all really need to be a little more aware of.
It's almost nice that we can't be seen right now.
Yes, most definitely. So one thing to understand is your posture muscles can get weaker over time with bad posture. So even when you try to demonstrate good posture by standing up straight, You may find that over time you simply no longer have the endurance that those muscles need. This test that we just performed in the privacy of our own homes with no witnesses can help to let you know if your muscles have become weaker. And there's an important side note, particularly as we're speaking to parents and to teachers. There is a time around puberty when girls are sprouting up faster than boys. This often can make them feel uncomfortable with the surge of growth, and their response can be to slouch so that they don't feel as awkward around the boys and they don't feel as tall and to stand out in the crowd. So that can be the start of developing poor posture. So we recommend that it's really important that you pay particular attention to the girls at this age for signs of poor or weakening posture. Now, what does strong posture mean for your children or for your students? As we talked about earlier, text neck is now being associated with handheld electronic devices, and it is an example of poor posture. Weak posture is also being associated with prolonged sitting while reading, using computers, and watching television. Neck, back, and shoulder strain is associated with overweight, oversized backpacks that are worn improperly. If poor posture is permitted to develop in children, it can decrease fitness and activity levels, and this can result in the potential for increased health problems in later years. The other thing about physical activity is that it's a really great way to manage stress, and our children certainly experience stress just in the same way that we do. So if poor posture leads to decreased fitness levels, what can happen is that it can impair the child's ability to manage stress, and subsequently it impairs their ability to study and to succeed in school. So now that we've talked about poor posture, and potentially we've experienced some, what can we do about it? How do we strengthen posture? And the good news is that posture can be strengthened and it can be restored. And that helps to avoid the long-term effects of weak posture, including the chronic headaches and neck and back and shoulder pain that we've talked about. Students can be introduced to the importance of strong posture and spinal health early in their lives, and this is a lesson then that can last them a lifetime. A good posture strengthening program can be very simple, it can be very fun, and it's very easy to introduce into your home or into your classroom. And there are many ways that you can incorporate it into your daily routine. It makes a wonderful component of wellness education and daily physical activity requirements in the classroom. It's a really great classroom break. Sometimes kids have been sitting for a period of time and just need to get up and move around for a little bit. And a posture strengthening guide, a stretching program, is a great way to do that. It can make a wonderful warm-up and a cool-down before or after exercising, and that can be for activities that are taking place in the playground, at home, recreational sports, or as part of the phys ed activity. And these kind of stretching programs and strengthening programs can also make a fabulous activity for indoor recess. And I know we all experience that, or our children certainly experience that quite frequently through the winter months. And it's a great way to get them up and moving, and the weather simply doesn't have any impact on that. So it's been a lot of information, and I'm going to give you what I think is a really great takeaway for this before we turn this over to an opportunity to actually have a chat with Dr. Gushati. So I'm going to present you with 10 tips for a healthy student back. And the thing to remember here too, that although this is anchored to students, this is important for everyone. You can learn that from this as well, and equally importantly, you can set a good example for the children in your lives, because they certainly do learn from our example, and this is important for us all. Number one, you want to make sure that you're exercising daily. You want to eat lots of healthy foods and drink lots of water, because hydration is very important for the body. When you're sitting and you're standing, work really hard to keep your shoulders back and squared, and try not to hunch your back. And I confessed as I read that to you, I just completely had to pull my shoulders back because I was absolutely hunched over. Stretch before and after sports. This is a very important one to alleviate injury during sport, or to help to reduce the risk of strain and injury. Don't overload your backpack, and we gave you some great tips about how to know how much is too much. Stretch your legs and your back after each hour of sitting, and this is particularly true when students are in the classroom. You can spend a lot of time stationary, so between classes is a great time to do that. Never cradle the phone or any other device between your head and your shoulders. It's a really good idea if you're a stomach sleeper to try and get out of that habit. You want to sleep on your back or your side. You always want to make sure that you get enough rest and you sleep on a good pillow and a firm mattress. And finally, we encourage you and your children to have regular spinal checkups. So those are 10 great tips that you can take away, and as I say, do your best to incorporate that into your daily life as well as your children, and I think everyone will benefit from that. Now, before I turn this over to Dr. Gushati to answer your questions, I do offer this word of caution, for lack of a better word. At times, parents can associate the complaints of pain that come from their children or their students as growing pains. And while this can certainly be very true, it's important to remember that these complaints can also indicate that something just isn't quite right. And research has shown that kids with back and neck issues can become adults with back and neck issues if the cause of the problem is not addressed. So we encourage you to listen to your children and to hear them when they come to you with complaints about pain, and try and understand a bit more about where that pain is coming from. So that wraps up the formal part of the presentation, and I think at this point it's a really great opportunity to turn it over to Dr. Brian Gushati, who is going to be able to answer your questions and provide his professional expertise on back health in children and students. And so I invite you at this time to share any questions that you have with Dr. Gushati.
All right, I'm just going to jump in real quick, and thank you, Tara, for delivering that amazing presentation. I think it's really great for all of the teachers and parents out there that have growing children and are witnessing them in their everyday lives, and have that opportunity to jump in and enforce some of these tips and tricks and straighten them up before it's too late. Now, to all of our attendees out there, all of our audience members, this is an awesome opportunity to ask a doctor any questions that you have concerning your students or your children. If you've noticed any symptoms that they're presenting that you're wondering what it could be in relation to, or anything along those lines. If you're curious about maybe your classroom setup and things that you can change to make things ergonomically correct, you're welcome to type your questions into the chat box, and we will start passing them on to Dr. Gushati. I'll say hello to Dr. Gushati as well. We haven't heard his voice yet.
Good evening. I'm happy to be with you this evening, and I'm certainly be happy to answer any questions that your audience might have.
Perfect. We're just waiting to have some come in here. Hopefully we have some in a little bit. I'll actually start it off, Dr. Gushati, if you don't mind me asking.
Certainly.
How young should people begin, or at what age should people begin bringing their child maybe to see a chiropractor?
We suggest that in terms of postural development, it's a good thing to get children looked at much earlier than people generally would suspect. If you have children, you may recall that children in the early stages start to hold their heads upright and look around from a stomach down or face down position out on outstretched arms as they begin to observe their environment around them. And that is actually the activity that precipitates the beginning of postural curvature of the neck. So once that happens and postural curves start to develop, it is worth having at least an initial cursory view of the children's developing posture and developing structure. the next stage in postural development is when a child starts to sit, and that starts to develop the low back curve in weight bearing of the trunk on the pelvis. And then later on, as children start to weight bear on their feet and start to walk, you'll recognize that in that phase of postural development, there tend to be a significant number of crashes as the skill of walking upright is developed. And during that period of time, it's particularly useful to have a child checked from time to time to note the developing posture and also perhaps to intercept the effects of that initial minor set of trauma.
Wow, okay. Great to know. Okay, now we've got some more questions pouring in here. I'm going to just go through a couple of them and toss them out to you. We have an audience member asking actually what teachers should be doing for themselves who are bent over talking to students at small desks, especially when they're teachers of primary grades. I guess that's something that they will find themselves doing on a daily basis and quite a bit. Is there anything that you could suggest ergonomically that they could change?
One of the things that I've seen and talked to teachers about doing in situations like that is for them to if they can dress appropriately, to speak to their children from a position of kneeling. If they can get onto their knees and thereby eliminate the structural length of their body from the knee down, they can maintain a reasonably upright posture in the course of communicating with their children when they're dealing with structures and situations that are really close to the ground. The other thing that we know is that flexibility is the primary determinant of stress tolerance, and we also know that teachers dealing with particularly young children are in that flex position for long periods of time. So the really critical thing for teachers in that environment is to do things in terms of their own physical activity that particularly focus on maintaining flexibility.
Right. Okay. We actually have somebody else mentioning that they have incorporated yoga into their daily routine at their school. So that would be something
Absolutely.
you suggested for
Absolutely.
as well, right?
Yoga is probably the premier form of flexibility enhancing exercise that we find commonly being utilized today.
Okay, now here's a question relating to that. This audience member has heard mixed reviews about students spending the day sitting on yoga balls as opposed to actually sitting in chairs at desks. Do you have any comments on
that? Those yoga balls are a form of destabilization, which is the exact opposite of the extraordinary stabilization that is provided by a stationary seat. And again, what we've come to understand about human postural dynamics is that change is the critical issue. It's neither good for a person to be at rest all day long, nor is it particularly good for them to be fully active all day long. They need periods of rest and periods of activity. So the ideal situation in terms of the yoga ball would be to spend some time of the day on one and some time of the day in a stationary, well-supported, seated posture on a chair.
Right. Okay. The balance being key, right? We go back to that elephant picture.
That's right.
All right. Let me just go through some more here. We actually have another audience member mentioning the use of exercise balls instead of chairs for their students. So in that case, it is suggested to mix it up, right? Kind of
absolutely
have the exercise balls for a reading time or anything with students, and then have them back in their seats.
Right.
Now we actually have Rick asking, is it better to have a separate desk and chair instead of the traditional desk with the chair that's attached to it?
I don't know that it makes a particularly significant amount of difference, one structure over the other, provided that both situations are fitted properly. I suppose that individual pieces are more easily fitted to individuals, but the fact is that if the seated position fits, whether it's mobile or not probably isn't of significant importance.
Oh, okay. Now we actually have someone asking as well for any basic tips for younger children that are maybe 2 to 5 years of age, more in the preschool group. So maybe not even using heavy backpacks or anything yet. Are there really, really important basic things to watch out for them?
I think that the younger that the children are, the more important it is to keep them mobile. It's much more difficult to get children in that younger age groups to stay focused and stay immobile around a particular workstation. So I think the important thing there, not only from a postural perspective, but from a teaching perspective, is to give the children the opportunity to pay attention and work in a focused environment for short periods of time, and then give them significant periods of time during which they can move and play.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Actually, I guess this is regarding this question as well, and this is just an inquiry that I have. Is there a difference when it comes to a chiropractor? I know that with family doctors, there's pediatricians that treat children. Is it different in chiropractic? Is there different doctors for different age groups that people should seek?
Not in particular. Chiropractors are generally trained well to deal with postural considerations and general musculoskeletal considerations of children as well as adults. There are some postgraduate courses that are available to chiropractors who choose to get particularly interested in the area of pediatrics, but chiropractors are generally well versed in treating people from the age of childhood through to geriatrics.
Wonderful. Okay. That makes it easier for parents. Okay. Actually, we have another parent discussing that her daughter has actually been diagnosed with scoliosis. Is there a good sport for her to help her back? Because right now she does some yoga.
Right.
She's 17 and has gone through physio and everything. So is there maybe something that she should be doing now as an active sport that's beneficial for that?
There are a number of different kinds of scoliosis, so the actual diagnosis of scoliosis is fairly important in making a comment about this. But the most common scoliosis is what's termed juvenile idiopathic scoliosis, which onset begins in the preteen years. It's very important for parents to take note of certain postural considerations like shoulder levels, hip levels, head carriage, and those kinds of things. And if they see any abnormality developing, get the child checked by a postural expert, be it a chiropractor or their family doc, and get the aberration diagnosed properly. There are 3 stages or types of that scoliosis development that are acknowledged in the healthcare environment, and the earliest stage is the mildest, and it can be managed conservatively. And chiropractors have expertise in that area. In the most aggressive, the 3rd stage of it, those scoliosis events typically end up being handled surgically. And in the middle area, the management is generally conservative, but with focused observations so that if things get going out of hand, that they can be dealt with more aggressively. So it's very important in the terms of scoliosis for the thing to be evaluated and for it to be monitored as it progresses. By the time a child is the age of your parent that's asking this question, the scoliosis will have been evaluated and will have been dealt with most appropriately. So at that age, you're basically dealing with the long-term effects of what has developed already rather than what is still before the child in terms of development. In those circumstances, the important thing is to maintain mobility to the highest degree that is possible, and that is done through exercises and some particularly focused activities that, again, can be delivered by chiropractors, physiotherapists, or family doctors.
Oh, okay. So even the yoga that she's currently practicing is probably a good suggestion.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And there are some particular issues that need to be addressed with scoliosis in terms of respiration and things like that if it's one of the more aggressive types of scoliosis. So again, the assessment and proper management is critical in case of scoliosis.
Right. Okay. So it varies. Okay. So we actually have another question, this time about a kindergarten age child that actually seems to kind of walk a little bit awkwardly, almost as though one leg is longer than the other. So there's this audience member has been told by a doctor that there isn't a difference in bone length. So if it's not an actual structural issue, is there something that could be done to help a child's walking structure?
Sure. There is always, in case of what appears to be abnormal development, a critical determination about whether the issue is structural in nature or functional in nature.
Mm-hmm.
Structural issues are more difficult to deal with because they are generally a result of abnormal bone development, but many of them can be addressed as well, albeit more aggressively in their address. Functional disturbances can be addressed in terms of training and other physical activity in a similar way to the way speech pathologists may address speech abnormalities, which are typically functional abnormalities rather than structural. So the same thing can happen where a functional abnormality in gait is developed. A child can be trained to normalize their gait, provided it's not just an underlying structural issue that has to be addressed first.
Okay. This next question that comes in is actually back to more of the infant age group again. Do you happen to have any opinion on jolly jumpers or the exercisers that that a lot of people use for their children at a very young age to develop?
The information that is coming from research about the use of things like jolly jumpers and those kinds of things talk about the stress that's placed on the pelvis through the use of jolly jumpers. So the current wisdom is that they're not particularly good in terms of the stress that is forced into the pelvis, and that the suggestion is that's not good for pelvic bone development in the early stages.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
But also some of the concerns with things like jolly jumpers or walkers or those kind of things are also related to the risk of trauma from accidents involving them, where the child may in a walker end up going down a set of stairs, or the jolly jumper may disconnect from the door, that sort of thing. So those are concerns that are also been raised. So some are safety issues and some are projected developmental issues as well. And I think that with the jolly jumper right now, the recommendation is that they not be used.
Okay. Now another question we've got here are, what do you find are the biggest long-term implications to bad posture development? So even all of us, all of the teachers and parents, if we're listening to this now and really finding ourselves having to straighten up, do you find that there's an overwhelming amount of a very common symptom that people are coming in with?
Certainly. If you look at the way the human upright posture was designed and through the course of years, the body was designed to move. The way that a person ambulates is that their body tends to fall in one direction or other, and their feet catch up with them and keep them moving. So they're very mobile and very maneuverable in the upright bipedal posture, which is exactly the opposite of the quadruped posture, which is designed to be stationary. Unfortunately, as our society has developed and people have become focused in their day-to-day activity, their activities are much less mobile than their bodies are designed for, and their posture or their bodies were not designed to accept that kind of stress on an ongoing basis. So what happens is you've got a competition between the structure and the design and the actual activity that is being forced upon it. So what we're seeing is that the body develops a compensatory mechanisms to deal with these processes, and it's fairly apparent if you look around at people who are walking around in a downtown office environment at about the age of 30 to 40 years old. If you take a look at most of the people as they're walking past you, you'll notice significant forward head posture rather than a head being held erect upright over top of the shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
That posture is a result of hanging over a desk, and particularly hanging over a keyboard and computer all day long. And that puts an inordinate amount of extra stress on the neck bone structure, and particularly the neck muscle structure. Anytime you increase stress, you decrease the amount of tolerance that you have over time to that stress, and increase the wear and tear. Consequently, what we see developing is those syndromes that are usually related to wear and tear phenomenon that in previous decades had not been seen until maybe the 5th or 6th decade, becoming apparent now in the 3rd and 4th decades.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm just automatically straightening up listening to all of this.
And the thing that has been discovered in recent years as well through research is that flexibility is actually the prime determinant of stress tolerance. Strength is not the issue. So what we've come to talk to patients about on an ongoing basis now is that it's much more important for them to pay attention to the issue of flexibility when they're going to the gym or considering recreational activities, and much less important for them to head to the gym and pump iron as a method of trying to deal with the stresses of the day-to-day in the normal work environment.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. It's good to know.
Mm-hmm.
All right, amazing. Well, we really appreciate everybody's questions. And Dr. Gushati, thank you so much for stepping in this evening and offering such great advice.
It's been my pleasure. I hope it's been of value.
Oh, definitely has. We actually have quite a few more questions, but as we are just coming to the end of our webinar here, I will let everybody in the audience know that Dr. Gushati and Tara Madden will be forwarded these questions, and we'll look over them and offer their expert opinion. We will later on post that on the Scholars Choice website in a blog format, so nobody's questions will go unanswered. We do have a few people as well asking where they can download Tara's tips for developing posture. They were interested in some of her slides, and that will definitely be available in a blog format as well, so everybody can watch the whole video again if they please. We are actually getting to that point now where we will do the draw for our $100 Scholars Choice gift card this evening. And I just want to remind our audience that this draw is open to Canadian residents in provinces except Quebec, as per the rules and regulations on our original registration page. A skill testing question will also be asked in order to claim your prize. And if I do call your name, I will record your email address and send you a follow-up via email. So if maybe we could get a bit of a drum roll from our experts on the line there, if we could.
How about a great big laugh?
Oh, that, you know what, that works.
There we go.
All right, so our winner this evening of the $100 Scholars Choice gift card is, let me just find it here. So congratulations to Kelly Swain. Kelly Swain out there, maybe even if you can make a comment in the question box so I know you hear your name being called.
Yay!
Congratulations to Kelly. So she is walking away with the $100 gift card for Scholars Choice. Now that we've got that all finished with, I just wanted to personally thank you, Tara Madden and Dr. Gushati, very much for joining us this evening. Is there a specific way that we can let our audience members know to reach you?
Absolutely. Any questions, any follow-up that they may have, they're more than welcome to direct to myself, and I'll give you my email address. It's tmadden, M-A-D-D-E-N, @albertachiro.com. And certainly I invite them to check out our website, which is albertachiro.com. And also we have our blog, everydaychiropractic.com. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us on Facebook. We're very findable.
Perfect. Very accessible. Awesome. Now,
so yes, we really encourage anybody who has any more questions. We'd be delighted to address them and to chat with anybody who wants to chat.
Great. I'm sure that all of the teachers and parents really appreciate that out there. And to all of you teachers and parents as well that are not already a fan of Scholars Choice's Facebook page or aware of the community portion of their website at scholarschoice.ca. That is where we list our blogs and the follow-ups to our webinar. So Tara Madden has actually written one of our blog posts as well, and you can check that out if you were very interested in this webinar. So we will direct you to our website or our Facebook page to get their contact information as well if you didn't have a chance to jot that down. So I just wanted to thank everybody very much for being on the call. Thank you so much, Tara and Dr. Gushati.
It was our absolute pleasure.
Perfect. We will be hearing a lot more from you throughout our blogs, and everybody can look for that. Look forward to that. And thank you everybody very much, everyone. Have a great evening.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.